Who is it one stranger that you never forgot? I went down from Leicester to Coventry to watch my team, Swansea. Got off the train and asked this bloke, probably in his early 50s, if he knew how to get to the stadium. Turns out he was a Swansea fan, so we got the bus tog there. We were a couple of hours early, so went to the pub for a few beers. We then headed to the ground for a last beer before the game. We ended up sitting next to each other for the game, then it turns out we were both going to London after the game. We got the train tog there and had a few more beers. We then said goodbye at Street Pancras station. I spent about 6 hours with this bloke and will most likely never see him again. Was in college, was starting another full semester, had a new job, but no place to live, after being screwed over by some people I had arranged to rent a room from, before returning from an internship out of state. I was off work at 5 AM, and had nowhere to go and just sleep. So, I decided to drive to Louisiana, which was about 45 minutes away, and do something. Ended up at a casino. Decided to go in with $100 and a pack of cigarettes. Learned to play craps. Table got hot for the other players. One guy in particular was placing $1,000 bets, while I'm just doing the $15 minimums, trying to learn the game. Big money. Ended up making about $12,000 over the course of my dice rolls. I lost my 100 after gaining some but losing out. I start to leave, the guy catches up to me before I make it out and asks me if I'm okay. Noticed I was real tired and frustrated looking. I just tell him I'm having a hard time, don't get specific. He slaps 2,000 in chips into my hands and tells me to have a better night and thanks me for the luck I brought him at the tables and just leaves after patting my shoulder. I cashed out and had a deposit and first 3 months of rent paid up on my new place by the end of the next day. If you're out there, dude, thanks again. You were my hero that day, hell, that year. I just hope I can do something like that for someone one day. Edit. Wow, this blew up. I'm glad my little story that I started to realize happened nearly 8 years ago, time flies, has interested so many. Since so many have commented and sort of asked, I lived in Beaumont, Texas at the time, worked in Winnie, Texas at a new concert/rodeo arena that had just opened a couple of weeks before and had been playing craps in Lake Charles. I was in the process of saving money from work for a place. Please, if you are ever in a position to do something good for another person, don't hesitate. The gangster dude at the gas station who was walking up to the door with his friend and stopped to tell him, hold up, I gotta hold the door for this bitch, as he held the door for me. Classic. Back in the 90s, my school went for a trip to India and we ate at this one small restaurant in Covalum Beach, Kerala, with a group of about 20 people. The waiters were kind enough to move 2 tables onto the beach for us, so we could eat with our feet in the sand. 10 years later, I visited Covalum Beach by myself and ate there again. Suddenly this waiter say, weren't you here 10 years ago? With a school or something? Dumbfounded I answered yes. He grinned and said, I remember. We put the tables on the beach for you guys, didn't we? After 10 freaking years. The guy who tried to pickpocket me in the busy market by grabbing my dick instead of my wallet. Edit. Thanks for gold. A guy named Jason sat with me after I got hit by a car. He waited when no one else did, made sure I didn't die by the side of the road, and got help. I owe that guy my life. This guy working at Chick-fil-A who said peace, love, and fried chicken, my dudes, to my brother and I as we left. When I was like 8 or 7, we went to a truck stop, and I was waiting in line at the restroom. A stall opens up, and I'm the only one in line until a guy goes up to the stall as the person there before is leaving. Before the man goes into the stall, the first guy points at me and says, hey man, he was waiting first. The guy stopped and let me go then. Never gonna forget that legend. So back when I was in 5th grade, I was riding my bike in my neighborhood when I came across this toy company. I thought it was a toy store, so I walked nonchalantly into it, thinking very little. Anyway, a man who I think was the manager welcomed me and asked me why I was there. I wasn't very sure, so he went ahead and gave me a tour and walkthrough of the company. He was a gentleman and even gave me a toy, can't remember what, when I left the building. I was 18 and on vacation in Ireland. Was sitting at a pub when an older gent next to me started up a conversation. We are talking and all of a sudden he drops this gem. You know, the missus and I haven't been intimate in about 2 years now. God bless her soul though, she's been dead for 4. And then he cackled and wandered off, leaving me to sit there like what the fuck. When I was out jogging as an overweight person, I went past a young mum out walking with her baby stroller. After jogging myself near the brink of collapsing, because frankly I didn't know how to exercise in moderation, I was slowly dragging myself home. I passed the same mom sitting on a bench on my route home, and she simply told me, "Nice work." I'm still not physically fit to this day, but such simple words of encouragement from a stranger still warms my heart. I've told this story before. When I was 15, I was riding the train in SLC. It was a normal day, normal people riding the train, some professional, some clearly homeless. It was morning. Suddenly a drunk homeless man collapsed. He just laid there, confused, but couldn't get up. And while he laid there we just stared, a train car full of uncaring observers. I didn't even think to help. Someone did. A professional looking man kneeled down and helped the man into his seat and looked around casually, and I know it's not how he intended, but I felt and still feel like his eyes stopped at me. It was probably nothing, but I've never been more ashamed in my life than when that man scanned the crowd and I was just an onlooker. 5 years later I see that face when I stop on my way to work to help shovel snow or hold the door open for someone, any little thing I can do to not be a casual onlooker. I've had a lot happen in my life, but that one look has changed me forever. Reddit, gold cherry popped, thank you kind stranger. I was on a school trip to Italy, and we were on the dome of the St. Peter's Basilica. I ran across a fairly handsome Danish dude a few times on the way up and down, and at the top he told me I'm not gay, but I would be for you. I'm not gay either, but a compliment is a compliment and we took pictures. I still think about it when I'm feeling down, tbh. I held a door open for an elderly lady who then wished me a great day and commented that I was brought up well. Lady, you have no idea what I get up to when I'm not holding open doors for the likes of you. I was sitting on the subway for a long commute and was generally agitated from the start. I was one of 3 or 4 people on the train and this chick pulled out a noisy plastic container of cookies and started eating them while I was thinking how inconsiderate. Doesn't she know you're not supposed to eat on the subway? Rude bitch. She's going to leave crumbs everywhere. Then she turned and looked at me to offer me some, and, though I refused, I felt horrible for just thinking she was a nasty person at first. The way she offered was so genuine and friendly. I stopped categorizing people. You're still not supposed to eat on the subway, but just because people break the rules or don't realize they're being inconsiderate doesn't mean they're a bad person overall. Since then, I've tried my best to never assume the worst in people. Assuming everyone is just intentionally being a jerk will make you a miserable person. This one simple grocery store sugar cookie eater taught me that important lesson. I was at a convention, and I had a panic attack, which led to hyperventilating. I managed to make my way to a hallway, where I turned my face to the wall as I was very embarrassed and wanted to avoid attention as much as possible. People were passing me by, but one woman I didn't know stopped and asked if I was okay. She had a kid with her. I managed to gasp out that I was hyperventilating and having a panic attack. She put her hand on my shoulder and told me it was okay and to breathe slowly in through my nose and out through my mouth. I know I'm not explaining it very well, but she was just so overwhelmingly kind, and she stayed with me until it passed, then smiled and left. I didn't even really get to thank her. I'll never forget her. I was on a bus and there was this absolutely enormous black guy, possibly the most intimidating looking person I've ever laid eyes on. Massive muscles, popping veins, and dreadlocks. Old lady was struggling to get up. When the bus stopped, this guy went over to her and helped her up with the most delicate "let me help you with that." I'll never forget that, and it concreted one of the bigger lessons in life: don't judge a book by its cover. That eyeball peeking through the bathroom stall at me while I was taking a dump. That was one creepy fucking eyeball, man. I'll never take a dump in a public restroom ever again.